What's up, everybody? It's Jeffrey Lyles, welcoming you to another edition of Lyles Figure Files. 2 weeks ago, Hasbro dropped its latest Marvel Legends live stream. The Spider-Man retro series was a snoozer, but they really salvaged it with the debut of the Avengers 60th Anniversary Initiative, Beyond Earth's Mightiest, showing off so many figures we'd seen on leak list, rumored figures to come. We finally saw them. They delivered. Can't wait to see all the figures coming in figure form and get them in my hands, in my display in 2023. But the biggest, wink wink, news was the HasLab for 2023 is going to be focused on the Avengers. That leads us to two conclusions. Obviously, the first one would have to be the Quinjet, something massive, huge, wide enough to fit 6 or 8 Avengers, maybe have a little foot peg so Thor can stand in the background. And I think they would do an amazing job on it, have some great tiers, and it would be spectacular, the best vehicle we've seen from Hasbro with the Marvel Legends line since they started. And I think there's only really 3 vehicles you need for an Avengers Marvel Legends collection in total. You need a Blackbird for your X-Men, a Fantastic Car for your Fantastic Four, and your Quinjet for the Avengers. And I think this would be an opportunity to get that. But you think back to just last year with the Engine of Vengeance, the Ghost Rider anniversary project. That didn't do well. It didn't fund, period. It wasn't even just a matter of, it didn't get all the tiers. Collectors were not happy with the early bird rollout. They didn't like the Mephisto. Definitely weren't happy with the portrayal of Goblin Queen, who's supposedly based on her Inferno look, but it was just more of a modern take. And then the Damien Hellstorm, which was also skewed more modern. I did several videos kind of saying this was the wrong approach for them, and I'm hoping Hasbro took all those lessons to heart, not just angry internet trolls just going upset and mad because this isn't the figure I wanted. Because I think a lot of us were trying to say, I would buy and support this HasLab, but here are all the reasons why I'm not. So I think the HasLab Quinjet is still a good idea. We're gonna have to put that in the corner for a little bit longer until they get some goodwill built up, because they can't go from consecutive failed projects, which I kind of feel like this Quinjet would be. So that takes our attention to the other obvious candidate, which I think was basically confirmed yesterday on Instagram by Marvel Legends design member Dwight Stahl. He had posted a picture of the HasLab Sentinel, the HasLab Galactus, the Lord of the Rings Balrog, Lord of the Rings Treebeard, and a Transformers Devastator, with a simple caption that surely gave all the hints that everyone needed, including me, to speculate wildly about what's to come. Who else loves giant, in all caps, action figures in their collection? Well, clearly this is saying, hey guys, the HasLab Giant Man is coming. Get ready. Start saving your pennies for it right now. And you guys know I have been championing for a HasLab Giant Man for a long time. Even before the Engine of Vengeance was debuted, I was saying, here's all the reasons why we need a HasLab Giant Man. And I think now we're actually going to get it. But as I said, it's really important for Hasbro to knock this one out. They can't have 2 Marvel Legends HasLab projects fail. So how do they do that? What's the best approach to make sure the HasLab Giant Man works? All they need to do is stay focused with this. Do a 24-inch tall Giant Man based on his classic look. There are lots of different versions you can go with Giant Man. I have some ideas on how they can make that work, but I think it's really important for them to just kind of focus on the immediate, let's get this project, this base funding measure taken care of. That way we can go, okay, great, we got this knocked out. All right, so my first thought is they basically just need to make the 12-inch Toy Biz Giant Man in about 18 to 24 inches scale. That Toy Biz Giant Man still holds up remarkably well, and it's one where if we never get that costume done from Hasbro, I'd still be okay having that as my Giant Man classic form in my Avengers display. But I think that's the one they need to knock out. They need to go after first. Hasbro has been very meticulous about taking care of every figure we've gotten from Toy Biz over the years into figure form from their brand. And I think now's the time we're going to see this classic version of Giant Man knocked out. And I think this costume's really simple. It's really basic. but doing this in 18 to 24 inch scale would really make it good. And I know you guys are wondering, why do you keep saying 18 to 24 inches? The HasLab Sentinel was 26.3 inches. Galactus was even taller. But I don't think we need a giant man who's looking eye to eye with the Sentinel who's looking anywhere close to the same height as Galactus, because Galactus couldn't be as massive as we wanted anyway. I think he's great, really scales well with our figures, but realistically, that was about as high as they could make him. So I think Giant Man should be shorter than both of them. And also, that will allow us and Hasbro to keep that price lower. We don't need a $400 Giant Man. Probably don't need a $300 Giant Man. So the best way to have us and our calculations on how much this figure is worth is to make the figure, let's say $150. And then the tiers, the extra figures would then justify a $250, $225 price point. Because I think, hopefully, one thing that Hasbro learned with last year's failure, collectors aren't going to buy something they don't see the value in. And it doesn't matter how successful and how many bells and whistles and tires and glow in the dark parts and light up flame trails you throw in there. They're not going to sign up for it if they don't feel like what they're getting is worth the price point. Hence why there's a Hasbro Pulse warehouse sale where all those $24.99 figures, those $27.99 figures. I finally got my X-Men VHS Cyclops, who I didn't think was worth $27. But when I got him to closer to under $20, I was like, sign me up. That's the figure I want. So we're not going to see a HasLab figure ever on a Pulse warehouse sale. So the best way to accomplish this, to make sure it gets funded, price it accordingly. So I'm thinking that they keep the figure no more than $250. With all the tiers, you throw in figures, and if you do your Marvel Legends calculus, 4 figures now would be $100. So okay, that's the price of, so I'm paying $150 for Giant Man. And I think Giant Man's costume is so simple, so basic. They don't have to sculpt too much to it to make it stand out. It'd be great to have those glove parts, the glove tips, the boot tips sculpted. But his costume's really simple. And I think the main thing they need to do is probably make a separate piece for the belt. That way they can do other things that they need to in the future. The head sculpt, of course, should be great, giant, with the antennas so they can work with other things. So that's Giant Man, really simple, really basic. So I'm thinking, all right, well, what about an early bird tier that would really excite people? And I'm thinking, we don't need another case of a Doom head. We don't need a, here's Robbie in his civilian mode. I think something that would work as an early bird where, if I don't get it, I don't care. I got the figure I really wanted, and all these tier figures are important too. But I think one way they could do a fun early bird tier incentive, they could take different parts of the second version of Giant Man, because Hank and Jan couldn't stay on any outfit, any color scheme for any long extended period of time. So early on in the first 12 issues of Avengers, Hank is like, all right, now I'm Giant Man. I'm no longer Ant-Man, but I'm Giant Man. And then he decides kind of right before he and Jan leave, I need to switch up my costume. I need to mix it up a little bit. So here's my idea for the early bird special for Giant Man. The second outfit. Hank and Jan changed their costumes seemingly every 5 or 12 issues. It was like, I'm bored of this look. I need a new costume. Hank wasn't quite as bad as Jan, but he was pretty close if you look at all the costumes he's worn over the years. And I think his second take on Giant Man is something that could work. It's something the collectors would go, oh, that's fun. I don't need it, but it's a cool bonus if they throw it in. So this costume was essentially a helmet which Hasbro could put as a cap over the original head sculpt. No real changes needed there. So that one's the easy part. But then his outfit is changed just a little bit. He's wearing a blue shoulder pad deal that stretches down. And this is going to be tricky because this is one element of the outfit that's very different. So there's no red in the torso area. It's all black. And that carries over down to his shorts. I have a workaround for at least the top part. We've seen them experiment with cloth with Hawkeye. I think they could do a plastic blue collar piece there and then make the black cloth. You could take your separate belt, strap it around to tie it into the figure. I don't know what you could do with the black waist piece. Maybe that's something they could just use as a snap-on piece later. I don't know. I mean, I'm not the Hasbro designer. I think that's something that could work. The arms and the legs are the same from the first costume to the second one, so you don't need to change anything there. I think Giant Man 2 would be a nice way to go, hey, here's a little extra for you guys who really love Hank Pym, without pissing off collectors who don't order in time and feel like, oh, you guys suck, I'm canceling all my pre-orders, I'm going on my YouTube, I'm going to all the YouTube channels and saying why you should stop backing this project. So that's an easy early bird that I think Hasbro could do with no problem. Then for your other tiers, I think we definitely need Wasp as tier 1. And we need a 6-inch classic version, original attire. And then maybe we could do some smaller accessories with her. So we've got that cone head, but then we have a separate head without the cone and, you know, just her hair flowing loose. Then a different version of Mini Wasp. We've got this one that's like this on basically every figure. So maybe we have one with her arms out, just some different expressions, different poses for our non-articulated Wasp figure. One that could actually fit on a stand and fit on Giant Man's shoulders. That would be really nice to see. So just some ideas on that. So tier 1 should be Janet. And then with accessories, with a separate head and 2 or 3 different Mini Wasp. Got that covered. So then what would be a good tier 2 figure? Lots of options for him. I read one of the comments, somebody was like, we should get a Jarvis figure. I kind of think that would be a fun tier. I don't know if people would be like, oh man, we need to get 12,000 backers so we can get a Jarvis figure. But I'm thinking maybe you throw in Jarvis with one of those early edition, like Mark 1 Ultron. That could be a fun little tier. So we got him. That's a simple figure. No other way to get a Jarvis figure. We've got the original Ultron that Hank has no idea was going to cause all this problem, all this stress and drama in his life. Then tier 3, I'm going to go with Yellow Jacket because we've got a classic version of Ant-Man. We're going to have Giant Man now. And I think tier 3 needs to be an important one. That tier 2 figure, the Jarvis and Ultron, can be one of those, hey, we just need another 1,000 backers so for you guys to get this. I think that would work because people love Jarvis anyway. We get our original Ultron, but then we need a real strong one for our tier 3. And a Yellow Jacket figure would be really good. He's one of those figures that Hasbro tried early and it was okay, but it could really be improved now with the better articulation, double jointed elbows, double jointed knees, the butterfly torso. I don't know how they worked that with his big shoulder piece collar deal, but again, I don't have to come up with the design elements. That's for Hasbro. That's what they can pay the big bucks for. But he would be a great figure to add into the line as well, especially in this kind of HasLab Ant-Man focused project or Hank Pym focused project. So tier 4 I've saved for the last because it's 4th, but also because this one could be a bit more extensive and expensive. But I think to get this figure, a lot of collectors will be really excited and on board with it. So we've seen Hasbro bring out some old molds like the Super Adaptoid using the Captain America one. Thanks to all you guys for pointing that out to me. I was like, oh man, they did an original sculpt. You guys are like, no, actually it's a 12-inch version from Captain America from a few years ago. But I think it's time now for Hasbro to invent a new 12-inch blank buck. One that can be used for characters like Atlas, Clint Bart Goliath, Black Goliath later. Maybe you see where I'm going with this. It's time for Goliath. And this figure could be basically really streamlined, 12 inches, because there was a point in the Avengers where Hank was stuck as a giant, but not his full giant size form. And I think this is where we can get a 12-inch version of Goliath, where they make the mold. It's pretty much a blank body that then they can create overlays for Atlas, for Black Goliath. You can just use a straight up repaint for the Eric Jostin version of Goliath. And then, all right, we'll just do some more overlays for the Clinton Barton version of Goliath, who's also necessary and essential to this line before we wrap it up. But this would be an improvement over the janky and very badly articulated Goliath that Hasbro released earlier. Much like Yellow Jacket, this is a chance to get that figure done right. And they create a new mold, a new body. They can fund it through the HasLab, you know, like a little fundraiser effort to create a new buck, this blank, that we can create all these additional giants. And then not burn people out because it's like, wait a second, I paid for this in the HasLab. How are you guys putting this out at retail or as a Pulse exclusive? This is why I think it's key to have a 24 inch or 18 to 24 inch giant man. We have a size down version of Goliath who's still tall, but not as tall. That way you can use him to incorporate with all these other giants you want to throw in your collection. A 12-inch Goliath will fit in with your Masters of Evil, your Kree, Skrull, Avengers, War era, and then your, hey, I need a new costume change, Jan. Let's go with blue and yellow this time. So this is what I'm thinking. We got a $150 S Giant Man, early bird, the different parts to create Giant Man version 2. Our tier 1 figure is Jan the Wasp in her original attire. We've seen different versions of Jan, but we need to have her and her Avengers coming up with a name costume. Number 2, Jarvis with Baby Ultron or original version Ultron. Number 3, Yellow Jacket, badly needed redo. And tier 4, the Goliath version that we can then use for other figures down the road. So let me know what you guys think. I think we're finally going to get our Giant Man. So I'm really excited about that. But let me know what you guys think and what do you think about the tiers, and if you'd like to see some different tiers thrown in the mix. As always, thank you so much for watching. This episode of Laos Figure Files has been filed.